Chapter 61 Trapped. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. A chill wind engulfed the entire room as the moon illuminated the scene, giving it a bluish undertone to the scene. Everyone's heart fell deeper in place as their eyes scanned the room vigilantly. But no matter where they looked, nothing was more eye-catching than the ominous scene ahead. Flutter. Flutter. Everyone looked on to the long fluttering hair of the little Gia princess, who still has her back against them while holding a pink doll. And the duo who was reaching for her, didn't know why, but they suddenly felt their hands tremble the closer they got to her. Their fingers felt frozen to the bone as the chilly air forced itself into their very beings, deep-rooting itself in them. And when they finally turned the little girl around, their eyes almost bled out blood from the scene before them. Oh my God! The face was just two gruesome words alone. It was like staring into a deep, never-ending abyss of death that made their throats constrict in horror. How? This? What? No. Plop. The duo fell backwards, pointed their trembling fingers at the little miss and began using their butts to move back in fear. Monster. Monster. Their words echoed across the scene as everyone then looked at the scene in confusion. But of course, it wasn't long before this confusion turned into something unfathomable. Little miss. Everyone's face turned pale. Imposter. It was then, and now that old Gia recalled the lines that the stranger told Hullen. Someone in your home isn't who they were. Thus, their deaths were sealed. Finally understanding the words, old Gia's bones became wobbly in despair. Even the guards recalled the words and couldn't help shivering from the revelation. So, the enemy was the little miss. Then, what do they do? How do they fight this thing? Mother of mercy. The small hairs across their bodies stood up, as they could feel themselves now rooted on the spot, unable to move. But in their hearts, they were still screaming in tears. Monster. 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 Pluff. In no more than 3 seconds, the floor was now covered in vomit, as countless people threw up just from a single glance of the thing. They felt like if they had to continue looking at it for long, they would rather commit suicide instead. Just looking at it gave them a sensation of 1,000 spiders crawling, entering and exiting their insides at will. And just when everyone was still digesting the scene before them, they soon heard a loud cry from one of the ladies. Plop. Pia fell to her knees in tears as she stared at the thing in rage and hate. No. No. My baby. My baby. What have you done to my baby? You give her back. Oh. Pia's chest grew tight with grief. Of course she was scared and terrified to death. But do you know the love a mother had for her daughter? She might be soft-natured. But when the going got tough, forget it. She would be more brutal than any soldier if needed. With her hatred stronger than her fear, Pia took out her safety knife murderously. She had somehow always known that this wasn't her daughter. The connection between mother and daughter was no more, which was too bizarre. At first, she thought it was because of the trauma. But now, it all made sense. Even the thing's nature of standing in her bedroom at night, appearing in countless unforeseen regions, not eating for days and doing other weird actions were all clues to show that her daughter hadn't been with her for a long time. But she as a mother hadn't fully noticed it. So wasn't she a disappointment? Ha 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 ha. Pia clenched the dagger in her hand in pain when she thought of how much her real daughter might have needed her when this imposter thing took her away. Didi, Mommy is so sorry. Please forgive Mommy for leaving you alone. Mommy promises you that even if she has to die, she will bring you back safely. With that, Pia steadied herself, secretly planning to make her move on the thing. As for Wei Gia, old Gia, and the rest of the family, they too had the same thoughts as Pia, but another shocking thought embedded in their minds made them grow numb. So all this time, they had been living with this thing. At this moment, Even though they were a military home, the level of terror that engulfed their hearts from the sight before them was so intense that they too couldn't even move a muscle. The fear was too crippling. However, they knew that if they didn't do anything, then their fates might truly be sealed today. If they wanted a chance for revenge or to understand it all, they had first to flee the scene since the enemy had long prepared. You look at me, I look at you. Everyone gave each other a brief eye before Wei Jia began screaming orders out. Evacuate the room. Take the children to safety. Run. 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 In a flash, almost everyone in the room dashed towards the doors as if it were their only salvation. Be it by chopper or vehicle, they didn't care how they escaped, provided they fled the gruesome scene. At the same time, old Jia, Wei Jia, Butler Feng and a few others stood firm with quaking legs while trying to buy time for others. They looked at the thing before them and took big gulps of saliva. May the heavens help them all. They only wished to buy more time for the rest. And for a moment, it all seemed to be working and going according to plan. But too bad, the little girl had long prepared for them. Bam! Bam! Katchak! All doors and windows magically closed themselves shut with several loud bangs, making everyone stare at the scene anxiously. Oh no! It won't budge. It won't budge. Then slam into it for heaven's sake. Or better still, shoot the damn latch off. I don't care how you do it, but open that damn door now. Bang! 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 Chapter 62 The Big Feast. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Everyone's mind was clouded heavily as they stared at the doors desperately. Blow them away. Bang! 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 The thundering bullets flew out from their weapons as if it were a war zone. And the sparks and flashed from all the firing seemed to illuminate the dimly lit room from time to time. Destroy! 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 They didn't dare to slow down, as they fired uncontrollably at the only thing now standing between them and freedom. And after firing for what seemed like an eternity, they suddenly froze, looked at the doors and almost burst out into tears. Damn it! How did they forget that these doors were reinforced and sturdier than ordinary ones? The doors and even the latches were made for keeping the enemy out. They didn't even do any major damage to the doors after all that firing. One could only find scratches or marks here and there instead. F******. Dread grew within their chests as everyone tried their best to pry the doors open. No matter how sound and bold one was, ending up in such a situation, trapped in a room with an unknown thing that they didn't know how to kill, would inevitably make terror bloom in their hearts as time passed by. And without a doubt, even the guards who felt courageous before were shaken to their core with the turn of events. Their breathing grew hoarse as they raised their legs and kicked or slammed the doors with a crazed look in their eyes. Open! Open! Why won't you open for me? Bam! 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 Tensions were high, and their veins were already bulging out in desperation. But how could they have known that this was just the beginning of a fun night? The chandeliers began shaking greatly, and the couches began floating and spinning around the room as a crazy gust of wind fumed in, creating a storm within the hall. Everyone's body went numb with shock. They saw the scene before them. Too strong. The strong winds lifted several people and spun them around as if they were rolling around in the sinking Titanic, with many forcefully hitting themselves against the walls in agony. Bam! 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 Some people already saw stars from all the hits to their heads and bodies. Ah! The loud chiming chandeliers and exclamations of other panic-filled people quickly covered up the moans of many. But just when they thought that they would forever end up getting bashed and thrown around all night in this tornado, hurricane winds, the strong gust of wind suddenly stopped. And at this moment, everything, including everyone floating, fell hard on the ground mercilessly in one loud bang. Bam! The room was now in a mess. But the real point of focus was that everyone's heart now had a higher degree of fear installed in them. Beautiful. It smelled so good that the little girl couldn't help taking a big whiff and moaning in ecstasy. Heh! Want to run? Then think again. Everyone, though in a state of disarray, was still focused on the little girl. Those closer moved with their butts as fast as they could, trying to stay as far away from her as possible. Wei Jia felt the pressure on his throat when staring at the thing that looked like his daughter. Oh, dear! He wanted to throw up and convulse in both fear and repulsion. You! What do you want from us? Wei Jia asked with a shivering tone. He had fought against it, hoping to calm his knotted belly. But the fear from within the room seemed too courageous. He could feel the bottomless quivering in his spine. And for the first time, he realized that his voice could go up a note as well. Luckily, because of the elephant in the room, no one seemed to realize his strangeness and only gazed upon him in admiration instead. They were all shaken down to their bones, but Wei Jia was courageous enough to talk to the thing even after all that had happened. In truth, Wei Jia was just as shaken as they were. And when the thing abruptly turned its face at him, he felt like he was about to collapse. But with everyone staring at him with such hopeful and expectant eyes, he dared not fail them and could only swallow his quake feeling and pent-up vomit for some other time. Who made him the current head of the household? The thing saw Wei Jia's struggling expression and chuckled. For what I want to do, I'm sure you already have a guess in your heart. Oops. You all are going to die anyway. So why care about what I will do with you all after your deaths? The thing said before smiling from ear to ear, as her lips extending right to the back of her head, and the moment she spoke, she didn't even give them time to readjust themselves before calmly lifting her hands and closing her eyes calmly. Of course, everyone's concern wasn't the actions, but what they were seeing before them. The thing's teeth started growing and elongating into a spiky saw-like pattern that formed a line all across her face. And when she opened her eyes again, they were a deep shade of bluish-purple instead. But maybe, the most shocking thing was that during this time, the massive image of the moon seemed to have a deeper bluish color with purplish highlights too. Even if they were dumb and slow-witted, they now realized that what they were facing was definitely something out of this world. So instantly, they pointed their weapons at it without hesitation. At first, they avoided shooting it because it looked exactly like the little miss. You know, without the teeth, the face, well, the body still looked like that of the little miss, excluding the face. So they were patient about it, trying to flee to safety first and then think about it all. But now that they were truly cornered and backed up, forget it. This thing is going down. Instantly, time seemed frozen in place as everyone began raising their weapons. And at the moment, the little girl was watching everything in slow motion, with a curved smile across her face. Well, now. It looked like it was finally time for the feast to begin. She had long marked her favorites in this room, so she decided to save them for last. After all, the more their souls feared and ached like squealing hounds, the more blissful the meal. But because of those blasted angels, it had to be done before the heavenly hour. Lest they find out her deeds. Nonetheless, since she liked saving the best for last, then she would undoubtedly enjoy the closest to the little girl the last. Thinking like that, the thing's eyes curved upwards. Swish. What? Old Jia and several others looked around in blind horror while trying to suppress the shivers within them. It vanished. It vanished. Instantly, their scalps tingled. Where was it? Where was it? The dimly dark room, the weird sounds of drumming on the walls, and the impending fear of the unknown lurking in the dark, was enough to make one have a heart attack, talk less of losing their wits at a time like this. Especially the children who grabbed the adults with their cold, clammy hands. It's been a long time since they, the Jia grandsons, had cried. Today, they seemed to be able to shed buckets, with some even releasing the dragons of P2. But they dared not cry out loud for fear that whatever was within the dark would get them. They wanted to go home. They had never been so traumatized and frightened in their entire lives. And just when everyone was freaking out of their wits, they heard a loud cry coming from above. Ah! Everyone looked upwards, and Butler Foam also flashed a torch there too. It was on the ceiling. It was on the ceiling. Yes. They found it. But it was just that the image they saw was enough to send them into cardiac arrest. They watched as the thing stood upside down on the ceiling, and in one single bite, it bit off a guard's entire head after its mouth expanded into 10 times its regular size. Blood smeared its mouth, leaving the most horrid image to them. Crunch. 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 In just 3 more bites, the entire human had been swallowed. Pluff. She burped out the person's clothes and every other indigestible item. Tonight, she could eat both flesh and soul. Everyone watched her crunch the bones, not even daring to breathe, speak or call its attention to them. The amount of fear wired in their bodies made their eyes eclipse and roll to the back of their heads. But little did they know that this was just the beginning. Tonight, the bloodbath began. Run. Run. Pry open the doors again. No. No. Save me. It's got my leg. Shoot. Shoot. Waste the bullets on it. Damn it. Where is a missile when you need one? Help. Help. Save me. Bang bang. Bang bang. Bang. Chapter 63 Heroes to the Rescue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where did it go? Look. Over there. Shoot. Shoot. Bang. 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 Bang, the loud sounds of bullets fired in all directions as the now hunched thing suddenly jumped around the room, picking its meal at will. The night weather was indeed a hot one. But at present, as they only felt the coldness of the eerie winds that massaged their bodies, stretching its claws deep into the very fibers of their bones. Plop. The slimy items of the dead were continuously spat out the mouth of the thing. And in a second after spitting out, it would vanish and appear in another location with yet another victim in its hands. Like so, the feast became one to die for. And the poor chickens began running up and found, backing each other in circles with their guns pointed about in full panic. Where was it? Where was it? Front. Back. Up. Down. Sideways. Good heavens. Where the hell was the thing? Bang. 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 They could only see flashes and after images of it once they finally managed to spot it. And they didn't know if it was just them, but the more it ate, the uglier and gruesome it looked. Its eye sockets, its nostrils that now looked modified. Its entire body, and the fact that even its hair had started changing, made several gasps of panic leave their curved, open mouths. But while the thing was having its meal, Dorian and his gang had finally entered the estate. Vrrrmm. Ba.bum, ba.bum. Butler Sheng and Zhu Lin were thrown up and down their seats, even with the seatbelts on. F******. Can you take it easy on them? Rollin, who was driving, was in a Mad Max state. He clenched the steering wheel passionately while avoiding all obstacles in his way. Bang. 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 The automatic defense system within the well-equipped military Jia estate was one of the fiercest in the country. No other estate in the city had such a devised mechanism. This only went to show how big the Goa household was. When they first reached a certain distance and crossed a laser, warnings did go out, telling them to halt and wait for guards to get to them. But of course, in this emergency state, they continued. And after several distances, 2 more warnings went off again. At any rate, the mechanisms were typically placed after the Jia family closed their doors. That's right. In a family such as theirs, following schedules, just like in the military, was a must. They ate at specific times and did other activities at other appointed times too. Of course, the hours when their schedules were free were typically used for their private times. And in such a household, at 9 p.m. prompt, the gates would be closed, and the defense activated. Of course, if one came later than that, follow protocol after the first warning and stand there and wait for guards to view one on camera. From there, they would also head towards one and search them, as well as their vehicles too before any guests or people dared to even pass the first hall. With how big this estate was, there were sectors and various checkpoints one had to reach before getting to the heart of it all. But of course, since Dorian and his gang were unwanted guests, they drove past all the warnings, triggering the automatic safety procedures. And wouldn't you know it? Over 200 automated machine guns popped out from the lawns. At this point, needless to say that their detection capacities and other features made them perfect killing machines at this moment. And if this first fail.safe doesn't work, don't worry. The Jia residents had others. Bang! 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 The special bullets were made to penetrate 20% of the standard bulletproof window with a single shot. So imagine having hundreds of them shoot at the vehicle. F*******. It seemed like a nightmare for many if caught up in a wave of these monstrous bullets. But because Dorian had previously inserted his chi into the vehicle earlier on, the vehicle was still without a scratch. And the Jia detectors, which were also supposed to analyze the damage done, saw this and immediately signaled for another procedure to get launched. Okay. Okay. Do you think you're so tough? Then what about this? The machine's guns never stopped firing. But in the process, 2 other features popped out yet again and were ready for action. Seeing all this, Rollin wanted to cry. The Jia family sure were ruthless. But luckily, he was a damn good driver, himself. With that, Rollin prepared to drift as if in a movie. But who could blame him? In a blink of an eye, the path was suddenly covered with spikes and blades strategically. But that wasn't all. Large holes also began opening up on the floors like trapdoors, which only made everyone's eyes widen in alarm. Why? Because the trap doors opened whenever the vehicle was extremely close to it. And if one weren't careful, their vehicle would crash in just like that. And at the sides, Rollin saw several mechanical arms pop out, holding something in their hands. Were those hand grenades? Everyone's face turned grim. Boom! A small yellowish mushroom cloud flamed up, and Rollin's heart fell into his belly after dodging the attack. Yes. He swirled the vehicle to the side, missing the grenade by inches. The grenade then flew a distance forward and exploded on the lawn at the sides. Rollin was relieved. But what he didn't know was that the arm could calculate and estimate enemy moments too. It was like playing a game of chess with the computer. It would calculate based on what moves one made and make adjustments to counterattack and win. So make no mistake. This was just the beginning. But fortunately for the gang, they had Dorian with them. Dorian, who hadn't even shaken a muscle since this whole charade began, only stared outside, looking at the large moon deeply. Tonight. He had to go all out. Chapter 64. A bizarre sighting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang! 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 Boom! 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 The saga continued until finally, the gang had made it past the last defense. And only after stepping into the innermost sector of the estate, did they freeze in shock. This. Grandmaster. What is going on? A wolf. Everyone's heart skipped a beat after hearing the far cry of wolves from heaven knows where. But it didn't make any sense. The Jia estate was far from the famous Waffle Mountain or other forest regions. So how was it possible that they could hear it? Dorian glanced at the magnified moon for a bit before diverting his attention again. Sure enough. Tonight was filled with power. And even though ordinary people couldn't see it, when Dorian looked at the moon, he saw something completely different from what they saw. Butler Sheng looked at the scene deeply. The entire place was too quiet and silent, with not even a single sound from an owl or even a bee buzzing around. But that wasn't the real reason why his hairs at the back of his neck were all standing at attention. Zhu Lin also saw the seven and was gravely disturbed as well. How could he not be? Countless bodies were lying around in strange positions. And after cracking down and vigilantly placing his hands on their neck pulse, he couldn't help releasing a deep sigh from relief. Good. They were still alive and breathing. But the strange thing was that they had all fallen into some deep slumber all at once. The scene they were witnessing was too hard to describe. Countless bodies lay around every path and region, making them all stand on high alert. Who knew if someone or something would sneak attack them and put them to sleep just like these people? Instantly, they all took out a talisman paper in one hand and a gun in another. Whether human or creature, it was best for them to be prepared. As ever, the overly animated Roland began moving as if he were Indiana Jones or something. He stepped over several guards, looking for places to put his legs without smashing the bodies. That's right. He didn't want to smash the faces of these Jia guards. Who knew if they would get up and bite him like zombies? He had watched too many movies to know that in situations like this, don't try to poke the lion and avoid stepping on people. Even if they looked dead, asleep or even paralyzed. Roland's imagination was just too great. But he wasn't wrong in taking precautions. The entire scene looked like the enactment of Sleeping Beauty. Except, the focus was more on the kingdom people who were put asleep while waiting for the princess to finally wake up. There were some sleeping while leaning in the walls, and there were also some sleeping on board and positions too. F*******. How can someone sleep in a squatting position? Roland didn't know how long that person had been put to slumber like that. But he was sure that once the person woke up again, their knees would have been killed to death by them. Sigh. How tragic. And so young too. Faster. Right. The rest responded before picking up their pace, leaping over the many sleeping beauties scattered around. They finally ascended the grand stone stairs at the front and passed through the open doors vigilantly. And the moment they stepped in, they were immediately bombarded with a sort of chilly cold that made them shiver uncontrollably. The further in they went, the colder it became. No. The cold this time was fiercer and more penetrating than what he had felt during the other battles. Butler Sheng looked at the winding hallways and felt a little shaken. There was something big in here. Boom. Dorian began throwing talismans on any closed doors, forcing his way through without mercy. Butler Sheng didn't know how Dorian knew the way or even knew that they were supposed to stop at the building they did. But the fact that the cold air was growing more and more choking, showed that they had indeed come to the right path. And when everyone was still immersed in their thoughts, Dorian squinted his forward eyes as if having laser vision. Assignments. Roland. Gather the survivors and protect them if need be. Zhu Lin. Set up the formation according to the instructions. Zhu Lin nodded diligently while tapping his breast pocket that had everything he needed. Yes, Grandmaster. I will do my best. Dorian hummed before focusing his attention on Butler Sheng. Protect him while he sets it up. Yes, Grandmaster. But what about you? I fear that this time, we might be facing something more disastrous than before. Oh. Dorian glanced at Butler Sheng briefly and was once again impressed by him. Good observation skills and a calm mind even at dangerous times. Of course, Dorian understood his worries and couldn't help smirking dangerously. Assistance. Heh. He did have to go all out today. But, when did he ever insinuate that going all out meant being overwhelmed? In his opinion, it was just a little more troublesome. Dorian's gang continued advancing through the labyrinth hallways, moving past several twists and turns at every point. And within the room where the feasting was taking place, the little girl suddenly paused her bone-crunching, before revealing a frightening grin. How interesting. So the world wasn't so clueless after all. For them to walk amidst her sleeping enchantment showed that they did have some level of skill. Too bad the smell from them was just too weak. The little girl's head suddenly elongated like a giraffe, twisting and nodding in glee. Ha 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 ha. More food for her. And right on cue, the doors suddenly opened. Boom. The gang was here. Chapter 65 A Wannabe Exorcist. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Boom. Dorian and his gang burst into the room, completely stunning the frightened survivors who felt that only a breath away. Who was this? Some of the guards didn't know. But the Gia family members, who sometimes held parties and invited all the top big families and clans, instantly recognized Dorian in disbelief. They must be dreaming or something. Or else how come this person looked a lot like that Tion boy? Of course, Dorian did catch everyone's attention. But sorry, he wasn't the star of the show now. Nope. Everyone was more focused on the open doors behind him. Instantly, their eyes shone in determination as they started at the doors with shocked eyes. Ha 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 ha. It was open. It was open. Hurry. Hurry. Everyone, flee now. Flee. 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 Those were the only words running through their heads when starting at the doors. And in a blink of an eye, many stumbled, got up, fell, got up, and repeatedly moved like this while making their way towards their salvation. At the moment, they didn't even think or want to understand how Dorian got the doors open. Please. Their minds were focused on staying as far away as possible from this creepy monster, all right. But unbeknownst to them, at the moment, the safest place for them would actually be in here. Helen, who had been hiding behind several guards like a coward, finally crawled away in agonizing fear as she forced her trembling legs to move as fast as they could. Of course on the way, she didn't mind pushing or tripping anyone who dared to stand in her way. Move. Get out of my way. Don't you know the famous saying that women and children first? Get away. Get away. Clear the way for me now. Her anxious voice had raised several notes high as she screamed her orders at the men standing in her way. Forget about identities. Who the hell would care about one's identity in a time like this? Helen felt that even if someone offered her 1 billion vins after today's matter, she would never even think of coming to work here again. Bullish ***. What amount of money can be worth her life? She had seen that thing eat people with her very two naked eyes. So she dared not play with these Gia family members anymore. Now, she couldn't help slapping her former self in the face when she thought of how she secretly made her top competitor have a stomach ache during the interview for the job position of a nanny. Who knew that her actions had saved that person from tonight's fiasco? Helen was at the brink of despair when she thought of how she had been spending time with that thing during these past few days. Oh, God! What if it had wanted a snack and decided to eat her instead? Shiver. 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 Now, Helen's mind was firmly made up. She quickly killed her dream of marrying into the wealthy Gia family and decided to stay as far away as possible from them. No. At this point, even the other wealthy families might have such enemies. And to her, the entire didn't feel safe anymore. So once she was out, you best believe that she would be on the next train back to the next city. Yes. Yes. She would leave. But for now, the most important task was fleeing the scene. Thus, she gritted her teeth, rolled up her sleeves and was even more prepared to fight through the crowd of well-trained men. By hook or by crook, she had to leave. Very quickly, she took out her long hairpin, and a flash of cruelty flickered through her eyes briefly. It wouldn't be a crime if she killed someone now, right? Yes. Team Bo-on would really even know. The thing had already killed half of them here. So what does it matter if she kills a few? Was she supposed to stay and wait for these people to pass her by first? What if the thing got her in the end? Hullen gulped her saliva while holding the shaking hairpin with troubling hands. A moment of hesitation made her pause. Of course, when she thought of how they treated her earlier on, she quickly regained her murderous spirit. If she killed a few, she wouldn't feel guilty. After all, her actions were very justified. Heh. Who asked them to mistreat her before? Deserve it. But just when she was about to take her hairpin out and start stabbing people, she immediately spotted someone who made her body freeze in its tracks. Blink. Blink. Mr. Divination Master. Dorian walked forward amidst the crowd dashing his way and only had his eyes focused on the little girl ahead. Likewise, the little girl had long stopped her killing when Dorian came in and had her long giraffe head twisted to the side, as if trying to observe and scrutinize Dorian too. Well, she was looking at him as if looking at dinner. And more importantly, she seemed extremely curious about Dorian too. This world wasn't supposed to have someone like Dorian in it. Everyone, paranormal beings or things in the underworld, knew this. It was basic knowledge 101 that had existed since the beginning of this world. Since ancient times, it has always been like that. So suddenly finding one was an extremely shocking matter. But even at that, no one would believe that any exorcist here could be powerful. Why? Because they would need the guidance of the heavens if they wanted to understand the profession's real essence and grow stronger. The underworld beings weren't fools. For centuries they had been monitoring the heavens and their influence in this world. In short, once an oath gets taken, the underworld leader had a risky and taboo way of feeling the impending danger. Thus, they could only risk it in one world, lest they get discovered by the angels. Anyway, they had been monitoring things and found that no oaths had been taken. So it was impossible for this world to ever come up with a powerful exorcist, even if there was one. It was just that they failed to know that with the system's private space and functions, for some reason, things were going to take a different turn in the end. And this was why the heavens sent the system to assist in doing the job instead. Of course, the little girl had no idea of this and could only look at the wannabe exorcist in disdain. Without a doubt, she felt like it was a weak chicken. Chapter 66, Time to Die. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. While Dorian was still making his way towards the enemy, chaos once again reigned supreme when everyone came face to face with a hard reality that knocked them off their shoes. This. BRMM. The shattered pieces of the door floated from the ground and instantly fitted themselves to the missing parts of the doors as if they were puzzle pieces. What? Everyone's eyes widened, almost jumping out of its sockets from the sight before them. How? Who? When? What? Slap. Some people slapped their faces in disbelief, while others only felt the door of opportunity closing in on them instead. No. It's forming. The door is rebuilding itself. So once it's finished, how will we get out of here? Boom. Like a missile, the heavy words did the trick. And those who marveled at the magical sight were quickly awoken with only dread on their faces. Magic, smagic. Who cares? They had to get out of here first, okay? One of them, who was closest to the doors, quickly grabbed onto a large broken door piece on the ground, and was now fighting against the invisible force that was trying to lift it up. You let go. I said let go, damn it. The scene was both funny and pitiful, as the poor Fit gripped it hard with non-existent tears in his eyes. What the hell? They just wanted to leave the room. So was that too much to ask? The guy held on for not more than 2 seconds before the strange force shook him off and did its job. The door had now been rebuilt, and many instantly fell on their knees in dismay. No. Everyone's heart fell into a state of shock, unwillingness, and pain. It was like seeing food brought to you when one was starving and then told that one couldn't even have a single bite from the food. No. That was even mild. It was as if someone had then taken the food away and even found a method of retracting the food sent to F*******. It was better they didn't see when the door broke down. Do you know how much hope they had built up Anki within these few moments? They slumped onto the ground like puppets when they felt the fires of hope extinguish within them. But just when the last burning candle within them was about to be blown out, Roland's words made them feel on top of the world again. Everyone, gather around, follow my instructions, and you'll be safe. Wei Jia looked at Roland curiously while trying to confirm the shower in his voice. Who are you? And how did you know about this matter? Roland pushed his glasses back calmly before turning around to face everyone as if he were a school lecturer of some sort. His confidence, and the way he acted, as if not scared of the scene, made everyone feel like this was just a walk in the park for him and those he came with. Of course, Roland was inwardly frightened too. But after the event this morning at the Gu residence, as well as visiting the secret room for training, setting up the stall, and even the fielder trip to get into this particular gall in the Jia residence, all made Roland have a better control over his fear. For example, he found that he wasn't as scared as he was when he first saw a monster at the Gu residence. So compared to these newbies, please. He wanted to believe that he had seen and grown a little more, all right. The Jias and the guards all looked at Roland cautiously before suddenly hearing a yell from amongst them. I know you. You're with that guy that warned me about tonight. Instantly, everyone's eyes moved between Hullen and Roland as if trying to get the real inside scoop. Hullen stared at Roland deeply and only connected a few thoughts in her brain. Earlier on, she thought these people standing next to that divination master were only there to watch. But seeing them here with Dorian made her understand that they were his men. She gritted her teeth and stared at them hatefully. These bastards knew what was going to happen tonight, so why didn't they tell her? If she had known, she would have fled before the GIAs caught her. Yes. Who the hell cares if everyone within the Jia household died? She would have left them and ran, taking herself alone to safety. But no. These bastards only vaguely mentioned the matter, causing her to suffer such a loss today. Hate. Hate. She hated them but dared not show it too much. After all, they might be the ones to get her out of this mess in the end. So she could only wait for this issue to be dealt with before exploding and extorting them for money. That's right. She was going to threaten and sue them. Whose fault was it that she was here in the first place? Hullen out all her blames on them without a second thought. It was all their fault. Well, while the dead-brain Hullen continued to plot and scheme, Dorian's gang continued to fulfill their assignments. But as for the big bosses themselves, they were now in their own little world. Swish. In a flash, she appeared very close to Dorian, floating in the air and giving off a very intimidating aura. She stretched her giraffe neck towards him, leaving it close to his left ear instead. And you? Who are you supposed to be? Dorian lazily lifted his head to the side with a faint smile on his face. You seem smart. So you figured it out already, right? The little girl looked at Dorian, grinned and finally retracted her neck playfully. Yes. Yes, I have. Both sides stared at each other with dead-locked gazes, as if they were the only ones in the room. You look at me, I look at you. Suddenly, the little girl burst out into a gruesome laugh that sounded like goats being throttled. Ha 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 ha. Exorcist. You've truly impressed me. I can't feel a single wave of fear, discomfort, or even repulsion emitting from you. So tell me, is it because you've finally realized the hard facts? Are you now willing to die peacefully? Die. Dorian chuckled. Enough talk. Either fight or stay quiet. You're boring my ears. Bastard. Boom. The fight was on. Chapter 67 Being a Hero Was Tough. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In a flash, the little girl vanished, only appearing before Dorian murderously. Seeing that Dorian hadn't even reacted to her sudden move only made her feel more and more confident that he must be a waste of an exorcise. Boy, blame yourself for not knowing how big the world is. You are destined to become my meal. With that, she raised her elongated hands upwards before quickly sending a powerful slash towards Dorian. And when the attack was just a few inches away from its mark, Dorian suddenly vanished as well. Heh. Two can play this game. Swish, the air whistled hard just from the fierceness of the attack. And before the little girl could even question what the devil was going on, Dorian, who was now standing on her elongated hands, smiled cruelly. Bam! The thing's body flew backwards, rolling for a bit before finally slacking a wall hard. What? The thing stared at Dorian in disbelief. How could he be this powerful? Its gloomy face grew even more frightening as it stared at Dorian as if wanting to laser him to death. But soon after, the thing suddenly revealed a confident smile while staring at Dorian deeply. From the attack force, it could confer that Dorian and itself should be of equal strength. Meaning if it played its cards right, it should be able to take care of this exorcist without taking on too much damage. Yes. It can be seen that if there was a monster stronger than itself, this exorcist would definitely die tonight. TSK. If its older friend had accompanied it, then this exorcist would be a tiny insect in today's matter. That's right. Itself and its other friend had long been planning for this night. Too bad its friend couldn't go out tonight after the underworld summons. Thus, making it head out to feast on its own. Well, even without its friend's aid, now that it had a grasp on this exorcist's matter, it felt like victory was very close. Looking at matters more clearly, the thing felt that the only reason it got attacked earlier was that it had underestimated its opponent's strength. But not anymore. Now, it will be unless its full strength, embodying today's magnificent moon. Oh. And at the same time, why not summon a few of its minions to take care of the others? The little girl was talking about Butler Sheng, Julin and Rollin. At present, it couldn't feel any powers coming from them, so maybe they weren't even exorcists at all. But since it misjudged Dorian's matter, it didn't want to take the risk, lest it made a mistake of misusing these people only to fail in the end. And that's why it decided to summon forth its minions to do the job. But no matter how its minions acted, they were not to eat or taste its food, or else it wouldn't mind slashing these hungry demons to bits. Thinking like this, the little girl suddenly laughed hysterically as her entire body started breaking and expanding into a hunched, gruesome figure. And at the same time, all around the scene, several reddish puffs of smoke began appearing, and the minions finally revealed themselves to all. Things were about to get heated. The little girl. No. The now 10 feet tall, hunched figure calmly took in a whiff of energy from the moon's essence and felt its entire body boiling with glee. Exorcist. Now, you will feel my full wrath. Dorian looked at the thing calmly, took out a talisman paper and created a giant saber 5 times his size while looking at the thing lazily. You need mouthwash. Your breath stinks. You. Damn, you exorcist. Boom. Both sides were now prepared to go all out. But while the boss leaders vegan their works, the audience and Dorian's gang also had things cut out for them too. Rollin looked at the dreadful rotting minions around and also felt pressure build up within him. He didn't know what they were until Dorian's words echoed in his mind. Morbid demons. They have 3 hearts and can regenerate rapidly. Kill the hearts, kill them all. Once one heart is down, the regeneration process slows down too. Morbid demons. Roland's muscles stiffened while gazing upon the rotting faces of the gruesome Fanes. His hands trembled with the sensations of 1,000 spiders crawling on his back. And the moment he stared at these demons, a wave of acid would form in his belly too. F*******. He was trying so hard not to throw up. Ugly. Ugly. Too ugly. Roland's entire body felt repulsed. But who could blame him? Earlier on, during the Ghost Soda incident, it was Dorian doing the battling. And even at that, he felt like the hybrid water, ghost demon he saw there was far better looking than any of these minions. In truth, the stronger the demon was, the uglier it typically looked. But there was also another important point to note. The stronger they were, the more control they had over their own being. They could choose to show all their ugliness or hide it at will. In short, these minions here were 2 bottom feeders who had not been birthed willing ago. In terms of demon age, one could look at 50 as being old. But for demons that live for centuries and millennium, it was too young an age. Within the underworld, there were over 800 different types of creatures, from ghouls, goblins, gordons, evil spirits/yokai and many more. And all started at the lowest level after birth, worming their way up to the top. Half of the demons birthed died after getting eaten by their other baby comrades too. Heh. From the moment they were born, they had to fight for their rights to survive. Join a fraction, do something or overpower one's enemy with raw strength. Whatever it was they didn't care. They lived off fear, destruction and loved deceit, and so on. To them, this was the true meaning of life itself. At these times, who didn't want to be a top or leading power in the underworld? In fact, many would have wanted to become ruler themselves, but the current ruler was just too strong. Unlike the heavens where the Creator was in charge since he in turn created the angels, the underworld wasn't the same. So far, there have been many rulers governing it over the millenniums. And it's not that they abdicated or anything, but that their competitors killed them. And if a demon kills another demon, they will be reborn from scratch again and have to work their way up the same way they did before. Of course, if an exorcist killed a demon, the demon's entire existence would be no more. Meaning it would never be a demon again. But funny enough, it will get the chance to be reborn as an object for 200 lives. And as an object, it wouldn't have a brain or thoughts or even know that it used to be a demon. Stone got turned into boulders, while others got turned into grains of sand instead. And after 200 lives of being an object, it would have the chance to be reborn into the countless millions and billions of worlds as an animal for another 100 lives. Of course, how it acted as an animal could also be a deciding factor for its future. In short, it was a long process before it could ever be reborn as a human. If it were still too terrible, then it would pass through more processes before getting to be a human. Cleansing an underworld entity and making it normal was a rigorous process once killed by an exorcist, angel or any heavenly being. Morbid demons. Parts of their faces seemed missing as if someone had taken chunks and bits off them. Their faces were rotten with all sorts of bugs dropping from them. And worst of all, even their pieces of flesh started dropping off too. Ugh. They were about 4 feet tall, with some colored red and others colored green. They also had long devilish tails that had bladed ends too. Roland looked at them and recalled what Dorian had mentioned. Apparently, these demons were too young, 50-80, to develop or grow any true attacks. So they only had strength, razor-sharp teeth, agility and their spiky tails. I'll go. If this was what they had when they were young, could they develop something like acid spits or fireballs when they grew older? Rollin looked at the little devils dashing towards him like crazy with an anxious gaze before quickly yelling towards Julin and Butler Sheng a little distance away, who were busy dealing with their own matters too. Guys! I think we have trouble on our hands. No sh*** Einstein. Julin yelled anxiously. The formation will soon be complete. 3 more minutes tops. 3 more minutes. Gulp. Rollin looked at the numerous waves of monsters dashing towards him and felt the weight of his assignment on his shoulders. He had to protect everyone, just by himself. As expected, being a hero was tough. Chapter 68 Morbid Demons. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The tension was high. And Rollin, who saw the minions appear out of thin air from the smoke, was tossed into battle mode at the turn of events. The formation that was supposed to keep everyone safe wasn't completed yet. Julin said he needed 3 more minutes, which sounded like an eternity to him. And during this time, Butler Sheng would be busy protecting Julin, while he would have to protect everyone else until the formation got done. After all, what if those things tried to eat someone? Rollin looked at the scene in slow motion as the vile creatures dashed towards him with all their might. Luckily, they were still baby demons. And in turn, their speed was similar, if not a little slower than a regular healthy adult's. But make no mistake, they were a tricky and sneaky bunch. So underestimating them would be terrible. Rollin quickly pushed his glasses in, popped in a piece of gum from his pocket and steadied himself for the fiasco. Well, the hall was just too grand, so the distance was indeed a little far apart. It was a habit of Rollin to chew gum when nervous. It always seemed to distract him from any anxiousness welled up within him. And just like old times, he popped in his trusty banana-flavored gum and reached for his pockets to get his weapons. Now, taking his cool domineering hero-like pose, Rollin was ready to flick any of these bastards that came his way. 3 hearts. 3 hearts. He had to kill all 3 hearts. As for the morbid demons, they smiled cruelly while dashing, jumping and running like little Tasmanian devils. Instantly, the little beasts started foaming in the mouth while making exciting sounds like a leopard brutally chewing its prey. Grop, 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 grop. Their rotting saliva, mixed with crawling creatures, began oozing from the sides of their mouths. And the closer they approached, the more they lost their sense of reasoning after seeing so much food around. Yes. Their boss did signal them not to eat the food here and only wait for after the battle before they could feast. But if they stole an eye and ate it now, how would the boss know? How can the boss prove that the person didn't originally come here with 1 eye? Of course, baby demons were somewhat stupid too. They hadn't even thought about the blood oozing out from the person's eyeballs to prove them guilty. For many, this was actually their first time in the human world, and they were just more than excited to move about. Moreover, even if their boss did tell them not to do something, be it demons or humans, when have children ever obeyed instructions wholly? The more one grows, the more lessons one will learn. And for these demons, they thought that even if they did commit a crime, they would be smart enough to get away with it. After all, they were natural-born demons, so scheming, betrayal, and all those things were part of their nature. Only absolute fear could suppress them. It was just that even though they feared their boss, one shouldn't forget that their boss was still a lesser demon too. That's right. Their boss was indeed within the top people within the lesser class rank of underworld creatures. Nonetheless, it was still a low-level demon. So how much respect and fear could they have for a low-level monster? The morbid demons licked their drool with expectation and felt that it wasn't fair that they had to wait for the end of the battle before feasting. Deep down, they secretly looked down at their boss even though they feared it. Their boss came out tonight to gather enough souls, feast enough and rank up too. So many of these demons were still obedient because once the boss ranked up, they too would have benefits. In short, the whole thing was a contracting and contradicting aspect. They wanted the glory of their boss after ranking up but were now secretly trying to disobey their boss and taste a little piece of food. Some underworld creatures sucked their victim's soul clean, while others did so by various other means. But morbid demons could only taste one's wood by brutally eating the flesh like a wild animal in the woods. They had eaten other underworld creatures countless times since demons fought day in day out to rank up. But now, seeing all this human flesh before them, how could they not want to taste or nibble on a bit? Flesh. 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 Their mouths watered and validated at the scene before them. Of course, they first decided to take care of the people their boss mentioned before secretly taking a piece of flesh from the many food options available. Or wait. To make it more disguisable, could they secretly eat off the people they were attacking instead? Yes. Yes. If they bit off a chunk of his legs or something, their boss couldn't fault them for that, right? Ha 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 ha. The demons, who were all still within the demon brain developing stage, very proudly praised themselves for how smart they were. Yes. If they acted like that, their boss would never know. Grop, 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 grop. Panic filled the air as several people took steps back in fright while pointing their guns ahead. Rollin watched the grueling beasts rush towards deeply, and began yelling at the audience with his eyes still staring at the front. Everyone, no shooting. You'll only make things worse. Guns had no effect on these beasts. So once regenerated, the positions of their hearts would change. This per se wasn't the main issue, since Dorian had told him that their hearts could only be in 3 out of 5 positions. And after regeneration, the hearts would shift to any of the 5 positions. So things should be okay for a while. But what happens when they keep shooting and making these things regenerate over and over again with no heart killed? Remember, bullets wouldn't do anything. So they would just be regenerating them countless times. And that was the problem. You see. Just like the case of Hercules slicing off the head of the 3-headed snake, the matter here was very similar to that. After regenerative severely in a short span of time with no heart killed, morbid demons would grow 10 times their size and have 10 heads and hands as well. So this went without saying that guns were definitely not allowed here. It was just that even though Rollin gave an order, some people were just too anxious to live. Hullen looked at the gun held by the guard by her side and anxiously reached for it after watching the overwhelming storm of morbid demons reach them. No. No. She didn't want to die. She. Bang. Chapter 69, 3 minutes up. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. With all the gathered force within her, Hullen's mind thought fast, as she swung her body to the right, banged it against the man close to her and seized his weapon in panic. The scene before her was too terrifying, so the man had kept a majority of his focus on the elephant in the room. And this was just what Hullen needed. Swish. The warm gun was now in her trembling hands as she pointed at the things dashing their way. She was actually along the second line of people at the forefront, facing the monsters. So for her, she felt like those at the back, close to the doors, wouldn't know the terrifying facts she had to face at the forefront. Was she just going to let these creatures pounce on her like that? Sure. She had some faith in Dorian and his team. But there were just 4 of them, and these creatures were a lot. A whole lot. So how could they be enough to overpower these creatures? She hadn't seen anything they had done since they got here, so excuse her. But she was beginning to doubt their actual capabilities. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. She saw the armed guards lower their weapons and felt that their brains must be filled with toothpaste. But she had forgotten that earlier didn't these guards already rain bullets on the scene? Of course, that was for the big boss himself. So maybe it might not be effective at all. And since Rollin said not to, didn't this also show that it would be a bad thing instead? She felt the cold arms of death gripping her tightly, the closer these monsters got. No. Was she going to die here just like that? She had already come up with another perfect life once she managed to flee this cursed place. So what will become of her new dreams now? Hullen was a very selfish person by nature. She didn't care whether anyone else would survive or not. All she cared about was herself. She was the type of person who would lead with these creatures to join their side and do harm to the world if it would guarantee her being alive. For now, she hadn't even thought of that and was only focused on shooting these mother *** king creatures to death. And the guard who had his gun taken quickly turned pale when he saw his weapon in Hullen's hands. No. Bang! Everyone ducked at the speed of light in shock, anxiety and fear. Who did it? Who did it? Rollin heard the shot and his body froze in place before sighing from relief. Why relief? Well, because the guard next to Hullen had managed to push her weapon upwards, making the shot hit the ceiling instead. And like a swarm of SWAT soldiers, the guards quickly disarmed and subdued the crazy woman. You let me go. You let me go, or I'll sue you all. Shut it. The guard bellowed in rage. No one listened to her banter as they mercilessly handled her in disdain. For all they knew, her move could kill them all. So they had no tolerance for her shenanigans. But, Rollin realized something weird. When the gunshots went off, the creatures froze in place with confusion on their faces. Gra! 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 The creatures looked around with darted eyes in all directions, with a little bit of fear within them too. Could it be that some strange and overly powerful demon caused the sound? For one, because it was their first time coming to the marital world and hearing the gunshots. So they thought it might be an enemy coming at them from somewhere. But even with all the commotion, everything seemed to work in Rollin's favor instead. So maybe he should thank the crazy lady. Rollin looked at his digital watch and realized that 2 whole minutes had already gone by. Good. Now, if he could stall or keep them away for another minute, the formation should be up and ready to go. I've said it, and I'll say it again. No guns. Disobey, and you'll only end up digging deeper holes for us. Everyone replied with shaky voices while nodding their heads like obedient toddlers. With that, Rollin was too lazy to bother with them and faced the gang of little monsters who were now mid-air, close to him. Grop! 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 Boom! Rollin controlled his internal energy and flicked several talismans at the devilish fiends towards any of the 5 locations where their hearts might be in. PFFF. Grawwu. The creatures screamed in pain and agony as their hearts heated up from the inside and suddenly burst as if overcooked in a microwave. The feeling of one's heart exploding out of its body was terrible. Their breathing became heavier, with countless beads of blackish sweat oozing out of their bodies like crazy. They clutched the part where their hearts exploded, with hate and pain in their eyes. Before, if they had only been trying to take care of Rollin because they were told to. Now, with their newfound hatred for him, they wanted him dead. The bastard had to pay. Instantly, the creatures gazed at Rollin with flaring hatred as they started at his body, looking for a juicy place to bite. And now, they meant business. Of course, it just so happened that 3 minutes was finally up. BL.net Julin smiled while putting the last stone in place. Mission completed, BRRMM. The formation took form, and a pink layer quickly engulfed the position where Rollin had gathered everyone. This move shocked the Gia family silly. Just looking at the strange layer, everyone knew that this must be to keep them safe. So they dared not step out. All they could do was marvel at the sight before them. And for the first time, they felt that their Gia family wasn't as strong as they thought. Now, with the formation up, the trio finally teamed up to fight the monsters. Dorian saw this and grinned in satisfaction. With the civilians out of harm's way, he wouldn't be concerned if the demon he was fighting asked its minions to take a hostage when cornered. With that, he could finally go all out. Good. It was time to end it once and for all. After all, they didn't have all night here, right? Chapter 70 Battle Over. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The gang of three began fighting the many minions as swiftly as they could. And just like them, Dorian and the big boss reached the crucial part of their battle too. Bam! 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 Tension filled the air as Dorian found himself evenly matched against the creature. He couldn't lie. Just holding on for this long at this speed was very risky and self-sabotaging. Since coming to this world, this demon was the first to make him go above his overall method of fighting. Dorian took a deep breath and called himself while thinking of his plans. If he was going to defeat this demon, he needed to conserve his strength for his last move. The boss demon swiftly moved across the scene, stretching her lengthy limbs towards Dorian as fast as it could. Boom! Its hand pierced through the ground, instantly creating a massive crack on the floors. And Dorian, who avoided the attack by a few milliseconds, now hovered in the air like a feather. Dorian's face was still calm, but it was clear that his movement had been slower than before, causing the demon to laugh eerily, while still sending countless swift attacks at Dorian. Ha 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 ha. I can see that this is all you've got, Exorcist. Your powers are weak. And your movements are getting slower. Ha 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 ha. Exorcist, it's clear who'll end up being the victor here. So why don't you just lay down and die? With that, the demon's head launched out like the tongue of a frog towards Dorian. Its mouth opened murderously, revealing its spiky teeth, and three-layered tongues feared out, ready to have a taste of the juicy food before it. This time, it meant to swallow Dorian's upper half whole. That's right. For this move, the demon decided to use its full speed and launch itself forward. It didn't believe that it wouldn't be able to eat its prey after seeing how slow Dorian had become. Yes. 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 It seemed like the perfect plan. But how could it have known that its prey was one of many tricks too? The audience, especially the direct Gia family members who had been watching Dorian's battle, could only see several bluish streaks of light glow out the already dimly lit room. It all happened so fast that their brains hadn't had time to process it all yet. Slash. 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 Dorian's saber moved ruthlessly. And just like the audience, even the demon was shocked as well. It had tried to pull away, but was too late in avoiding Dorian's move. Ah! It wailed in pain after getting its tongues and mouth cut by the heavenly light emitting from the saber. Drip. Drip. The monster covered its mouth in agony as if having a bad toothache, as black blood dripped and oozed out from the corners of its mouth. Too painful. Too painful. 2F*** king painful. The touch of heavenly essence on a demon's body was one of the most gruesome and horrifying things for them. What the hell? Countless shivers erupted from within the creature as it subconsciously feared that heavenly essence. F******. Those in the underworld weren't lying. The pain was too unbearable. You have to know that even though the underworld was chaotic, it was still somewhat systematic. If one wanted to go to any of the billions and gazillions of human worlds, it wasn't their call where they would go. They needed permission, and then they would randomly get sent out to any of the worlds. The rule was that after a demon got randomly sent to a particular world, they could only associate with that world and not go to another world to interfere with the demons there. Of course, this rule is only for lesser or moderate demons. The stronger ones could go anywhere and always had assignments to do. So what they did in the human world was very classified. In fact, even if lesser demons saw strong demons in the human world, they wouldn't be able to tell. Stronger demons could live like ordinary humans and even take big roles. Imagine targeting a string demon thinking it's a human. Anyway, since it was born and randomly sent to this world, it had never actually seen an exorcist before. It always heard about them and even had read up on the general knowledge about exorcists. The underworld provided itself in creating demonic soldiers, so even the young fledglings that got birthed heard about exorcists, even if they hadn't left the underworld yet. Doviko the demon held its mouth in agony after getting a taste of what being hit by an exorcist's holy attack was truly like. More than that, why did it seem like this exorcist had also become faster as well? Dorian, who had long seen that the Gia members and guards were safe, was now ready to battle with his all. If I don't end this soon, my strength will soon be exhausted by 70%. I always end a battle at 30–50%. So I can't drag this on. Dorian thought while taking out a golden coin from his pockets. Blood Moon Demon. Strengthens and lives under the essence of the blood moonlight. Habitual location. Likes living underneath lakes or other water sources that are relatively small but deep. Moonlight essence directly falls on the water's surface, forests or buildings blocking its way. Weakness. After revealing its true form, it will wither and die within 3 minutes without moon essence, just like a flower withers and dies without light. Dorian smirked cruelly before flipping the golden coin in his hands. And by the time the monster could understand what was going on, both itself and Dorian were now trapped underneath a pale pinkish film. Its eyes shuddered while feeling the strength of the film. A formation. But not just any kind of formation. It was a void formation. Or in simpler terms, a vacuum. What? What? Bang! It tried breaking the formation with its hands but found that its hands almost shattered from the attack instead. Damn it! Damn it! The creature suddenly realized that it had been played by this exorcist that it looked down on earlier. And the most annoying thing was that just a second after the formation was put up, the creature started feeling its body grow numb and weak. That's right. Moonlight essence was like air to it. But it wasn't talking about the human moonlight. Humans didn't know it, but there were always a total of 3 moons in the sky. 1 physical, and 2 spiritual. And when these 3 moons line up, it being a blood moon demon, would become one of the strongest existences on that night of alignment. In short, this was its perfect chance to rank up. Another point to note was that while the human moon disappeared in the day, the other 2 moons had always been there even when the sun was up. Even though the daytime gave out the faintest moon essence of all. Nonetheless, it could still breathe and live during the day. That said, Dorian's move of creating a vacuum that could block the moonlight essence from coming in, was akin to suffocating it to death. CAH, 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 CAH. The creature began holding its neck like Buzz Lightyear when his space helmet got taken off. And its body also began withering away too. Oh, it wailed and screamed, soon turning its entire rage at Dorian, the real culprit for its demise. You damn exorcist! What happened to fighting fairly? Are you the demon, or am I the demon? How dare you use this despicable trick on me? You set me free now, you hear me? Dorian looked at the creature calmly while doing several sacred signs with its hands. Of course, it was about to exorcise the sh*** out of this bastard. The creature didn't know it, but the air in the space had also been sucked out. But Dorian was a cultivator and could last underneath water without breathing for hours. In his previous life, he could last for months with the kind of strength he had. So what more of waiting for a few minutes to finish off the demon? Of course, the demon who saw how disadvantageous things had become was naturally unwilling to die like this. No. Even if it died, it had to drag this damn exorcist with it. But Dorian, who was no longer holding back, now looked like the demon amongst the 2 instead. The Blood Moon Demon shuddered in plain terror at the murderous waves of Dorian's aura. This. Impossible. Fear choked it hard as it watched Dorian inch in step by step with a sadistic smile on his face. And soon, the entire box was filled with thunderous screams that no one out of the box could hear. Ha! Dorian was now in overkill mode. And even though those outside couldn't hear anything, the image before them still made them shudder in fear as well. The Tian boy was truly ruthless.